Aloha, Keoni, my friend. Tell you what, let's make sure that we're in tune, meaning the instrument that you have needs to kind of be in tune when we're playing chords. For the purposes of spiders, you don't need to be in tune just as long as you can hear a note. So our first thing to do is to talk about our strings. The one closest to your nose, whether you're left-handed and you're playing with the high G up top, or you're right-handed and playing with the high G up top, you will definitely have the high G. It is higher than the note right next to it, which is lower. Do you hear that? One's up here, and this one goes down. So this one's high, and this one's down. This is a G note. Can you say it with me? G string. And then this next string, which is the thickest string, means it's the thickest out of all the strings on this ukulele. 4 strings, C string, thickest. When we pluck it, we get a C. More importantly, middle C. C. And hear how it's lower than the high G? High G, C. Now the next note's gonna be the E string. It's gonna be the one right in between the C and the A string, but the E string is gonna sound like E. And it's a little bit higher than our C. In fact, it's the third higher. So we have a high G, C, E, A. So later, I'm going to show you how to use the tuning pegs up here to make these notes go sharp, higher, or flat, lower. But for right now, for this exercise, for spiders, you don't need to have this thing in tune. It is acceptable. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our first finger on both hands. Right hand, left hand, right hand, left hand, right hand, left hand. Whichever one you're using, we're gonna be using both of the first fingers. Ready? You're gonna take your first finger and put it on the first string on the first fret. Okay? So we've got our finger right here. And what we're gonna do is if we put our finger on this and we pluck and we get that sound, that means that we're not pressing down hard enough. One of the things we do is sometimes we play these notes here as flat notes when they should be played as pointy notes. So if we take a pointy note and play a little bit more pointy, a little bit more hard on, we push in between the frets. This one just happens to be a nut than the fret, but this second fret would be a fret to a fret. We never want to play on the nut or on the fretting. We want to play in between on the fret. So that first finger is going to be on that first fret. We're going to leave that first finger and play that first note and go. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you get a note out of that. Now by doing that, we're going to take our first finger on this right hand and we're going to play this string and go from above. We're not going to go way underneath and pull it out. We're just going to go right to the side. If you go above it and play down, you can do that, but it's not as effective as just giving a little pluck. And it kind of looks like this. So when we do this, we're just plucking for that single tone, okay? Once we have that first note, we're gonna try and put our second finger down on the second fret, same string, but now it sharpens that note by 1/2 step. When we do it again with our third finger on the third fret, it does the same thing. It makes it higher, and then our fourth finger on the pinky, it goes on the 4th fret, and of course it does the same thing. Now what I'd like you to do for this week is just see that this is where this whole spider exercise is going. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're gonna take this finger and go down to the string right below it, the E string, and then move this finger down here and do the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. And consequently, we're gonna do this with every finger on every fret, yeah? It's not supposed to really make a lot of sense doing this, but what it does do is it gives your fingers muscle mobility, which allows you to navigate this fretboard a little easier. The things that are taken away from this, my friend, are you're gonna learn how to play with your pointer finger rather than using your thumb all the time, which will lead us into having good skills of going. See what I'm saying? I use that finger a lot for playing melodies. So what we do is we're starting day 1 on getting it nice and strong. And then this right here is just going to be building muscle memory. What we need to do is go through all these notes on every single fret, but there's no point moving on to any of the other frets, or the other strings rather, if we haven't already figured out how to get a note. We have to press down hard, press down hard, press down hard, press down hard. So when we do that, we're doing our spider exercises. So for you, for this week, I'm gonna do one line starting at the 5-minute and 40 mark. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, first finger, first fret on the A string. Second finger, second fret on the same string. And we're going to be playing with our first finger on our plucking hand. Our third finger is going to be on our third fret. Make sure we press down really hard, because if we get a dead note, that means we're not pressing down hard enough. You'll know that too if you're playing on the fret. It does the same kind of thing. So what we're going to want to do is go through all these notes to make sure that they're nice and loud and crisp and clear. And when we get this first line by doing 4 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, eventually, by keeping our fingers on the fretboard, it keeps us from putting our fingers way out here and having our fingers playing and then having to come back to the fretboard. If we keep our fingers all centrally located, they're never dilly-dallying. They're never straying around. So what we do is when we find these notes, it's easier for me to say, hey, play 3rd fret with your 3rd finger. Well, I know that this is my 1 finger, my 2 finger, my 3 finger, so I know that's going to need to go there. And I know that my 3rd fret happens after I go 1st fret, 2nd fret, 3rd fret. It just so happens, just like a chart or a diagram or a coordinate plane, like you were talking about during the lesson, it looks like a game. Well, yeah, that square grid, that's what this is. And when we put our finger up 1, 2, 3 and play the others, we get a C major, because we have a high G, C, E, and then another C up top. So that's our chord of the week, C major. If you would like to, what we do is we play the C with our hand, and we use the back of our fingernails for a rhythm exercise. So what I'd like you to do is see when I play that, I'm going, and it's called rake or a strum, where you're gently brushing your fingernails against all 4 strings. You can do it with all individual fingers, or the back of the thumb, or 2 fingers, or 3 fingers, or 4. It just depends on where you are. The wrist movement is one part of it, and then the whole arm movement is another part. So if I was playing a song like, and there's yet another lesson that we're going to learn in probably in the next episode or the next session called the teeter-totters. So we'll do the spider exercises and the teeter-totters every day together. I really enjoyed seeing you this week. I cannot wait to see you next week, and we could talk all things music then. But for this week, remember, a single note is a tone. It's a frequency that has a peak and a trough. When I pluck it, it's legato. It keeps going until you can't hear it anymore, which means it decays, which means our eardrums aren't vibrating enough to hear the frequency. It's still there, but we can't hear it. So what happens is when we're playing these chord structures like this, we count them out in rhythms of 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. So I always know where to play the 1 or the 1 and the 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Play the 1, not the 2. Play the 3, not the 4. Play the 1, not the 2. Play the 3, not that's what we're gonna work on next week. So this week, what we learned was a tone plus another tone is a harmony, and then a tone plus a tone plus a tone is called a chord or a triad. Today's chord of the week, C major, and we use the fingernails to do everything good on our strumming hand. Keoni, it's wonderful seeing you. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. Aloha.